Hello everybody and welcome to another Total Annihilation replay. Today I have a game from CBL, that is the Clan Battle League. I believe this is CBL 9, which was played in 2005. Here we have Clan FFA, the Freedom Fighters Alliance, versus Clan number 1, or the number 1 clan. We have FFAxBOLDOK and HexDump. So the FFA, you may have noticed in games with me, that's the tag that I have. The X there is the joiner, but so you'd say FFA or FFAx. So these are my guys. I'm a little biased towards them. We've got FFAxBOLDOK in blue and Hex in red, and HexDump, a good friend, and then FFAxBOLDOK as well. He's another friend. We had lots of fun playing with these guys, and so I'm actually really excited to bring this game. And this is how this game ended up happening was a little bit interesting, because we got onto zone, the clan folk, sorry, and we come on knowing that this tournament was set up and it was going to be N1 versus FFAx, and we're expecting that we'd be getting ready to play our games when we were informed that the games were already played and we had already lost. And we said, "Hey, what do you mean?" And it turns out that the N1 had accosted Chowie and Fry, and played their games with them, and won 3-0, because it's best of 5. One team picks, then the other team picks. But Chowie and Fry at the time were not authorized to be able to play for the clan. You had to be a certain rank within the clan to be able to represent FFAx. We have that kind of setup, and so we did make that point. And so then those games were invalidated at the agreement of Team N1. And so then 2 of the higher ranking members of FFAx, FFAxBOLDOK and Hex, have come in, and they were going to represent us. So the map that was picked by FFAxBOLDOK was Painted Desert. Now this is the classic Total Annihilation map. As you know, you do not know how to play Total Annihilation unless you know how to play Painted Desert. For Team FFA, we did have a roster set up based on per map. And so FFAxBOLDOK was the number 1 for this map, followed by Hex, and then I played in the 3 slot if we'd ever did 3v3 in clan tournaments. So one thing that Team N1 has done, which is a little shifty, is this is being played north versus south. When they warped their commanders, the standard start position is right up in here, but you can see how they both started further south, which allows them to kind of secure the territory behind them. It's a little, I don't know. You could ask for, I suppose, a disqualification in that situation, but it didn't look like it worked out in Rick's favor because he's only next to 1 mechs, and now he's stalling pretty bad. They're complaining about the mexes, but they're the ones who didn't exactly start in the correct position. So, FFAxBOLDOK and Hex, because PD, 3 versus 3, games were a common place match thing that happened on Zone. In the evening, you can almost always catch FFAxBOLDOK hosting a game of Painted Desert. And so both of you guys are very familiar with the start positions and how the map is played. You can see Rick's come in. He's marked Hex's vehicle plant, and Hex is going to destroy both those Jeffies. All he got for his effort was a little bit of scouting and a single mech. Probably worth it there. Let me go ahead and get this guy out of the way. All right, we'll go ahead and speed this up. You can see the way Painted Desert is generally played is you push out a lot of cons and start grabbing rocks immediately. You can see he's not exactly capping mexes. He's just sucking rocks. Hex, on the other hand, down here, he's pushed out some flashes with the metal he's getting by cleaning up those rocks. And he is planning on doing some raiding. FFAxBOLDOK playing the more standard approach here, too. He's pushing out his 5th construction vehicle. Pacer has also gone 5 construction vehicles and is reclaiming those rocks. Now, as you may remember me talking about from previous demos, if you've seen them, you kind of know where the cons are at in their reclaiming, because you can see the rocks disappearing. So you can see this here is FFAxBOLDOK's point of view. So we know is, okay, well, in looking up here, this is about where Pacer's at. Rick, he's a Canadian member of the #1 clan. He's an excellent player, really aggressive. Likes to goad people into games. He's got a lot of excitement about his games too. You can see when the game started, he chatted. He's like, "Let's roll" or "Let's rock." He's planning on winning this one. Rick catches Hex's flashes up on the right side. Hex is also sending some up the middle here. He is not driving right up the middle, so he's got 3 to the right, 3 to the left, and 3 going right up the middle. At least I think they are. Maybe he's planning somewhere, sending him somewhere else. Rick's flash is heading down this way. Pacer's flash is coming in. Bulldog's cons capping mexes. You can see he's just driving out to grab some rocks. And Hex walks away with the first con. Looks like Rick's is going to grab one right here as well. Pacer grabs one of Bulldog's cons. Nice job by Hex right here. He comes in, and he is able to save his construction vehicle. Rick says, "I'm dead already." Nice job by Hex right here, cleaning up some of the expansion. And a really good rating by Hex. Bulldog using those extra cons he had. He's built more cons. He's got vehicle plant just building cons, and he's cranking out flashes. He just lasers that one to death. He'll get to pick up the wreck. Hex got his cons idle right here. He's really focused on taking advantage of his rating right here. Now, in this particular tournament right here, Clan FFAx, we were known as a bit of a noob clan, I suppose you could say. Team N1, with their 6 elite members, is highly expected to walk away in this round of the tournament. Rick says, "I'm dead unless you share M." Pacer immediately shares his metal, responding to his ally's request. Nice little raid by Rick's, clears off the metal extractors right there. Clears off the metal deposits. Rick's asking for E as well. Rick dropped another con on the north side there. His forward positioning really doesn't seem to be helping at this point because Hex was able to get around. Here, Hex is taking advantage of the lead he's got on Rick, and he's going to bring it to Pacer. Bulldog really building here, and now you can see more idle cons, rows of missile towers, just building a big old war machine. Hex was able to come in, marks the factory. Rick cleans up the mexes. Now you might be wondering, why aren't I seeing any chatter between to Bulldog and Hex? They must be communicating somehow. Even at this time, in 2005, when this was played, we on Team FFA, we had ourselves a nice little TeamSpeak server. I forget who was hosting it. Yeah, other members, I know I talked about the members of the clan who have been eligible to play. So there was myself, Bulldog, Hex, Taipan, and IceSkull were our primary members for tournaments. I believe there was one other, Mach, eventually. Gaia too, when he was in. Hex rating, he's looking for that con. Just misses it, turns away from the missile towers. Good job by Pacer there. And this little con has somehow gotten away with all that, and a giant force meets it. Pacer's probably more than happy with what he got away with there. Rick drops another con to Hex's excellent rating here. And really, Hex is playing out of his pants as far as UC and rating, really making his flashes worthwhile. His building, on the other hand, leaves something to be desired down here. Bulldog, on the other hand, he is just sending those cons out and building like a machine. The hill is really important, especially in 2v2 games. It's easier to defend. There's a lot of metal on it. So Hex is going for it. Rick says, take M off and own. Basically, he's asking for him to take the share metal off. Now that did put Pacer behind Boldock a little bit. At this point, Boldock 14,000 to Hex's 7, Pacer at 10k, and Rick at 7. So Rick and Hex are more or less even, whereas Boldock is way ahead of both as far as metal production goes, and he is really using that to control this territory. He's pushing out some Samsons at this point. That enable him to not really have to focus as much on unit control. Instead, he'll be able to use those for territory control. Good rating, though. Looks like he's going to be able to get away with this con if he's paying attention. And he is. And score another point there for Paul. Really good use of rating again by Hexy. Comes in, bags another con on the north side. Rick, using some Samsons, he's going to start pushing the advantage. He says, I need the E. Do you need it? But Boldock could just raided out a bunch of E. Pacer shares energy anyway. Hex comes in. This factory is not particularly well guarded. I believe Rick walked his comm. Pacer says, bah. He's getting raided again. Let me see if I can find out where Rick walked to. There you go, his commander's going for a little resource walk. Pacer coming down for an attack. Little as you know, he's walking into what appears to be a trap. Hex marks out where the comm is because he got some of the flashes G-gun. Rick's little force right here looks like it's going to be able to get away with the con. Boldock more than prepared for this little raid because his missile towers are right here. This wreck field is going to be all Boldocks. Rick and Pacer are having a lot of trouble connecting their sides, but it looks like neither have Hex and Boldock. But at the same time, they're not really pressing into that. Pacer appears to have secured the hill. So at this point, Team N1 is really pushed further forward. They kind of got more territory under control. But Pacer says, I'm screwed. He knows that Boldock's got this massive army, and he doesn't have anything standing between him and it. Rick asks if he's dead. Rick has secured his position against Hex. Looks like he's trying to build his way back into the game. Hex, on the other hand, he's doing the same thing. You can see he's controlling territory just by hooking these missile towers towards the enemy. That keeps his cons busy. He says Boldock is too huge right now. Rick says, what? Hex getting aggressive, reclaiming that territory that Rick previously controlled. But this will be a decent amount of metal for Rick to come in and reclaim. Boldock pressing in. He discovers that Pacer really doesn't have all that much. See, all this territory is fairly well controlled by Boldock. Boldock going K-Bot as well. He's got 3 factories up. Pacer's got 3 going. Rick asks if he can stop him. Pacer manages to G-gun one of them, but Boldock wisely decides to run away. Although Pacer actually doesn't have that much by way of energy, so it's actually a risky move for him to bring the comm out that far. Missile towers are going to take out a few for free. Boldock again runs away from the commander. Rick shares energy, so that way Pacer's got enough Z-gun. You're just seeing what's going on. Boldock, in the meantime, continuing to build lots of missile towers everywhere. Just focus on controlling that territory. Rick runs into the wall of missile towers here. Don't need to have good UC if you've got enough metal. Another row of missile towers right here to contain and close up the gap between the two sides. They're not going to be able to exploit the weakness down the middle. Pacer's middle is holding right now, although Boldock recognizes that his strength is to push up the left side. All these wrecks here have been cleaned up by Team FFA. Here we go. Bulldog catches Pacer's Samsons out of position. And he brings in the flashes and his own Samsons. Really does good damage to that army right there. Rick's trying to push this MT wall down. He's got his own MT forest over here. Plenty of cons building it. Hex able to push him back. Bulldog going advanced. Hex finally gets a second factory up here. Pushing out a bunch of cons. He's starting to farm a lot of winds. Rick's got his own little wind farm going. His second and third factory is going over here as well. Hex pushes in on Pacer's middle. Looks like this is something that's going to pay off, especially if he can break that MT forest. Both Bulldog and Hex running around. Pacer warns him about the incoming. Rick says F. Bulldog's flashes go in. He discovers the vehicle plants, discovers the cons, and discovers the commander as well. And Rick goes ahead and just reclaims that final flash. Gets maximum metal for it. Rick says he's screwed, and Bulldog coming around from the top side. Pacer making a push on the middle because Bulldog has switched to go advanced. That does give Pacer a little bit of breathing room, and he has gone all units at this point. So you can see how going advanced is one of those things that can kind of set you back if you're not able to defend yourself. But I'm pretty sure this wall and these walls of missile towers are going to be able to protect him. Plus, he's still got raiders in the back of Pacer and Rick's base, really kind of shredding things right here, taking care of winds and metal extractors. Hex continuing to build up his front line. Pumping out flashes, pumping out winds, building more metal. Pacer around, looks like 16 metal. Rick is floating around 20. And Rick is dropping advanced. So he knows that Hex is building tons of missile towers. He doesn't think he can break it. So he's basically counting on the fact that, assuming they're even, he knows that, well, Hex has dropped thousands of metal in the missile towers. So I can afford to drop an advanced plant. Nice little rating by Bulldog here. Yeah, the game really started really well. Hex's excellent rating kicked the game off really good for Team FFA, and then Bulldog's capitalizing with some good rating of his own, as well as building. Pacer pushing, and the Rockos are coming in. Again, Hex exploiting this gap up the middle. Big, massive force of flashes by Hex running right up the middle. Rick doesn't have anything to respond. Still forcing out that advance. You can see Bulldog has built these. He's also handed these over to Hex. He shared them over. So Hex can build his fusions. And he's dropping fusions. Pacer says this is over. Rick says no, E. Pacer shares the energy, and Rick goes on a degunning spree. Not really a good use of those flashes by Hex. Only bags a factory for his trouble, but now both Hex and Bulldog know that Rick is advanced. Bulldog's got his Moho Metal Maker, and he's cranking out that fusion. So he's sinking a lot of metal into resources right here, and that's one of the reasons why Pacer is able to press in on him. And this con made it really far before he finally kicked the bucket. But now they're both free to sit here and focus on building their economy. Hex going advanced. Don't think he realizes the lovely gift that Bulldog gave him. Pacer coming in, reclaiming those wrecks. And now Pacer's dropping advance as well. That's a bug right there. He probably reclaimed that. It's just not showing up on the recorder. And Pacer and Rick have managed to solidify their position. They're still weak up the middle, but it doesn't look like Team FFA is planning on fighting that at this point. And now the comm comes down to do this. Typically, when we played this, we would reclaim the advance to get that fusion out a little faster. BOLDOK feeling pretty confident about where he's at, I bet. BOLDOK 54,000 metal to Rick and Pacer, both sitting around 39. Hex at 34. He's falling a little bit behind Rick at this point. He's managed to do a really good job of reclaiming, setting up his own defenses to prevent Hex from coming in. Hex trying to test him on the right side, see if he's a little bit weak. Doesn't look like he's going to get very far. Rick testing the left side of Hex's line. BOLDOK looks like he's just kind of comfortably hanging on here. And his first fusion is done. Now his economy is set to take off. He's cranking out more Farks. For me, that was a signal too. When that first fusion gets done, then I start laying down labs and cranking out a lot more units. Pacer advanced, and Rick has got a Moho going, and he's sending his advance cons down. And he has chosen to go Big Bertha. This was the standard, pre-2005 way to play the game, and even up to this point. You get that Bertha up, you shell their factories to pieces, and then you drive your units in. Doesn't matter how many missile towers they built, because that Big Bertha, once it hits enough kills, it's going to kill a missile tower every single time it fires a shot. Pacer dropping a Guardian. I don't know if I like the idea of doing both the Guardian and Advance at the same time. I don't really know what he's planning on doing with that, other than that will secure him the wreck field, although it doesn't look like BOLDOK's doing a good job contesting it. Rick testing that right side, doesn't get anything for it. And Rick's Big Bertha is getting done. The other thing they'll do with that Big Bertha is if he sees a commander, he will target it and try and nab that assassination. Rick dropping a fusion while his Bertha's getting done. I don't know where he's getting his metal. Oh yeah, he was reclaiming up here, it looks like. Hex was building up the middle there. Colloquial fusion reactor by BOLDOK down here. Hex got his advanced cons out. Pacer building his advanced cons. Still on the 5 factories. Got a little bit of wind farming going. Not quite as much as the southern team. Pacer trying to press in, using the Guardian. He didn't really build it close enough to do much to the missile tower forest, though. You can see he's beating back the missile towers. Grabbed a con for his trouble. And the Big Bertha's up. Hex hears that sound. He has probably already notified BOLDOK. More fusions here from BOLDOK. Rick stops sharing energies so he can keep that Big Bertha shooting. He's planning on cleaning up these empty forests. He wants to break through with his units. Advanced radar going. And he's building up his fusion. Pacer dropping a fusion as well. Recapping a territory. Team N1 looks like they got a little bit more territory control, but I don't think that's going to matter with Team FFA holding on to 2 fusions by BOLDOK now. Each one of those operating a ARM Moho metal maker. Which I believe, and the ARM players will have to correct me, I think they make 14 metal, and they do so at a more efficient rate than the standard ones. Hex apparently has told BOLDOK he doesn't need his silly nonsense over here because he's using his own advanced cons to drop his own fusion. He has sparked this Moho metal maker. Rick hasn't sparked his, although his fusion's almost done at this point. His Bertha falls silent. It means he needs something to shoot with it. I don't know if he's dropped his air plant. There he goes. He's going to be able to scout. There he goes. He's busy cleaning up those empty forests. Three fusions now. And he's got his air cons out. BOLDOK has built his own Guardian. Rick says fusion up, then I can maybe try and win. It's See, it's almost like Hex, he hasn't built any bombers, he hasn't built anything to counter the Big Bertha. It's almost like he doesn't care. Pacer pressing. There's a little bit of a soft spot down here in Boldok's line. But he sends over his units to plug it. Pacer, because he's dropping all his resources into building that fusion, he does not have, and a Big Bertha at the same time, he does not have as many units as before. Boldok at around over 100 metal at this point, Hex at 87. Four fusions up. And now here come the Hawks, the Dirty Birds. Pacer and Rick don't have any Hawk counters. Rick's fusion's done, he's working on his second. They have their line finally secured. Let's see, they got this nice little kind of S. Here comes some scouts. He's looking for things to shoot at with his Big Bertha. He says, I don't know what they have in the back, but my BB is zoning. And his Big Bertha is loading up on kills. Already at 59. Pacer says, I got behind from red little attacks from when Hex was raiding him. Just loads of missile towers everywhere. Bulldogs capped the Geo as well. Rick asked, can you win? Pacer's fusion just came up. Bulldog's fusion number 5 just came up. Pacer says he can't say. He doesn't know what I know. Things are not looking good for him. He needs to, well, they got to get lucky and really score a comm assassination at this point. Hex has got a second fusion up. Rick's got his second fusion up. So Rick and Hex are more or less even at this point. Rick does have the BB on him, although Hex is dropping his own now. With all those missile towers, it's actually really tough for him to get a scout through. Bulldog building Dragon's Teeth here, so he can go ahead and try and creep up on Pacer's flank. Another fusion going down. Pacer's Big Bertha's up. I don't know if he's planning on building another. Lots of missile towers here. And Hex has found the Big Bertha. Planning on taking care of it with his own. Guardian up on the hill by Bulldog. Stops Pacer's own little missile tower creep. Because this thing has so many kills, it's gonna win just about any Bertha duel that might happen. Pacer dropping more Big Berthas. Pacer says blue has mass Hawks, man. This is their first sight of him. Rick asks how many. Pacer says a lot. About 20. Hexy's Big Bertha opens up. Tags Rick's Big Bertha. And the Big Bertha duel is quickly lost by Hex's noob Big Bertha to Rick's ultra veteran Big Bertha. Sitting on a cool 102 kills at this point. Pacer's Big Bertha cleans off that Guardian on top of the hill. He's able to press in a little bit. Rick going in the attack because he cleared out all these missile towers. He can start doing it. Pacer says starting to freeze. He might be having some connection issues here. Rick's got a lot of flashes. Or sorry, Hexy's got a lot of flashes. And a lot of other units. He's building up his own force of Hawks. Doesn't look like Rick's built any yet. They scout. Pacer probably sees fusions. He says, he has over 6 fusion. That is correct. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pacer says, I'm freezing. Boldok's guarding. He's got plenty of metal. Boldok producing over 200 metal at this point. Rick's 128, Pacer's 94, and Hex is 161. The Team FFA giant war machine has come to life, and Boldok has probably around 30 to 40 Hawks at this point. Hex smashing his forces in, going for that Big Bertha. Doesn't look like... Will he be able to defend it? Flash shots hitting it. And down it goes. Second Big Bertha coming up by Rick, but that might be too little too late in the face of this massive force. More fusions by Boldok. More fusions by Hex. More fusions by Rick. Pacer's got the 1, 2. He's cranking out some fusions of his own. Pacer finally starts to exploit the weakness. Pacer's asking Rick if he wants to give it to him. Rick, being a competitor, will probably say no. But here comes Boldok's attacking force. Rockos are fantastic at clearing on missile tower force. They have a slow-moving, high-damage projectile, so you can see just a few shots, and the defenders are completely blown away. Boldok's massive force, Hawk force is ready. He's probably got that set to a hotkey. And Rick's Big Bertha has survived. Boldok marks the Guardian. And it quickly goes down to the Rockos. Pacer's commander right there. He's got his scouts, and here come the Hawks. Pacer says GG. Rick says run, hold. And he said Rick's a competitor. Completely cleans out his back. And Boldok flies into Rick's own Hawks and missile towers, but it's not enough. Boldok finds Rick's fusions and takes them out. Rick decides to surrender at that point. Pacer's freezing because he had also decided to surrender too. A good game. Team FFA, represented by Boldok and HexDump, take game 1 of CBL 9. So we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at the final resources here when this comes up. Well, let's see if it actually does come up. We can also peruse and see what they were doing down here at the bottom. You can see Boldok was also dropping a nuke. More fusions. Let's see, what did he end up with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And he built an ART. Actually, an automatic radar targeting facility. I was probably a little overkill there, Boldok. A little overkill. Good job. So this game, for me, this was... I actually wasn't on when this particular game happened. But this is, I'm pretty sure this was game 1. They let us pick, and then they did their pick. I think they picked Metal Heck, and I don't think that demo exists. Oh shoot, I didn't hold on that screen. Let me. No, I can't necessarily. Sorry, we got the annoying TA buzz right now. But anyway, yeah. So I think Rick, so they picked Metal Heck, and so then the next game that I have. Going into it, I believe we are 1-1. between FFAx and N1. I know this is really fun on the forum when this got posted, and people are like, "Wait a second, you mean they won on Painted Desert?" Because supposedly, like I said, that's a TA map, and N1 is the #1 TA players, and Team FFA were just a bunch of noob cakes. So it was fun. The banter riding high on that. We went into the next pick, the next game, which I believe was a pick by N1. Of Beta Tropics Coasts, and I'm pretty sure I have that game, and so we'll go ahead and put that one up here for you guys to enjoy too. In the meantime, make sure that you like and subscribe while you're enjoying this lovely Total Annihilation buzz right here, and I will catch you around for the next game. Take care. Bye bye.